We can go ahead and stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. It says it's upcoming, but it is published and you should be good. And my speaking rules. That sheet is sitting at my house. So I do have a photo of it in my notes. So, any resident wanting to speak? Sure, I have a copy in my notes. Try this again. It is small enough that I can't read it.
Is there one back here? Can you put one back here?
Well, let me close my notes and then come back into them. Sorry, guys. No, it's just too small to read. And it's not letting me enlarge. Okay, surely.
I saw this one.
All right, here I can. Oh, and there is one back there. Okay, thank you. I thought the only copy was at my house. Okay, any resident wishing to address the town council must go to the microphone. There's not one, but over to the podium. Address the chair, state your name and address. We also ask that you signed in with. So therefore, I need to adapt this because we are not asking you to give your address. Since we are broadcasting live, we don't expect you to do that. And then obtain recognition from the presiding officer. Any person who is recognized may speak. However, there's no guarantee that you will be recognized. Non-residents who have interest or information to share on a specific issue can also speak with the consent of the town council. No person shall speak twice on the same issue except by majority consent of the council. However, any resident who has not spoken on the issue may ask for the floor, and he or she shall be the first to proceed. Debate shall be limited to 2 minutes for each speaker. The total time for debate on any question shall not exceed 10 minutes. No extension of time shall be allowed a speaker to debate a question except by unanimous consent of the council. Once a matter has been the subject of a public hearing, residents will not be allowed to address the council on the matter at a subsequent council meeting. Residents may obtain contact information for each council member from the town hall. As a matter of courtesy to those around you, cell phones must be placed on vibrate or silence. If a call must be answered, the call must be taken outside of the meeting room. Sidebars or other distracting behavior will not be permitted. Any individual participating in distracting behavior will be asked to leave the meeting room so as not to disturb others. Total open mic session is 20 minutes. Barry.
Roll call. Council President Cindy LeDuc.
Here.
Council Vice President Todd Fry.
Present.
Councilperson Sonny St. Gordon.
Asked to leave the meeting room so as not. Sorry.
Councilperson Michael Douglas is here. Sam Levine is not here, so we still have a quorum.
Okay. Okay, we need the approval of the previous meeting minutes for July 14th.
I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes for July 14th.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? By the way, aye. Okay. We need a motion for the approval of the financial statement for 7/31 of 25.
Make a motion to approve the financial statement for the month of July.
I second the motion. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? We need a motion to approve the invoices.
I make a motion to approve the invoices.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? I think I heard everybody. We need a motion to approve the bank statements for 7/31.
Make a motion to approve the bank statements for the month of July. I second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? I can't hear one of you. We need a motion to approve the payroll warrants for 7/31.
I'll make a motion to approve the payroll warrants. I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? I don't think so. I think I heard Todd. Okay, questions, concerns, and remarks from the audience. None? Okay. Town superintendent.
In addition to the daily test at the wastewater treatment, water treatment work orders locates, the following was also done. Turnoffs, Nons was on the 8th, the meters was read on the 10th, water samples was taken at Monticello on the 1st. We have worked at the wastewater treatment plant the 7th, the 8th, the 14th, 15th, 17th, 21st, 22nd, 24th, 29th. We had to get the water audit done. We worked on that the 21st, 22nd, 28th through the 31st. Yard waste and mowing, the 7th, the 8th, the 14th, the 15th, the 21st, 22nd, the 28th, 29th. Also on the back, you can see that there's a certificate of approval where the air map is inspected, so we're good for that for the following year.
The email from the IDM, is that what you worked on here, on the water audit?
No,
Okay. They done that audit in May, correct?
that was an inspection.
Okay.
So
And we filled that inspection, correct?
there was a backflow device that was needing inspected. So I had to reach out to the company, and emergency response plan had to be updated. Both of those were done and submitted. They were submitted to the inspector, and why he did not forward those, I do not know. So, but I resubmitted them. So
Is there 15 locations in town that need that backflow prevention? Or just the one?
it was just the water.
Just the one.
Yes. Well, we've done the water plant part, so, or the community center here, so.
That's all I know. You done it over, buddy. Appreciate you.
Okay, Nick.
Busy month. Well, Tahoe's had a warranty repair, it's completed, back in service, we're waiting on part of the glad it's back. Still waiting on Clifford Signage to finish their remodel of the wiring that they ran into, and rewire our lighting for the Galveston Police Department lettering, so that should be hopefully soon. Amy said they should be able to take care of it within the next week or two. Detour project, still same recap. From June 2nd when it started to 8/11, I was a week short, but misinterpreted the meeting being last Monday. So we're at 15 crashes reported, 146 traffic stops. Total calls for service, 301. 87 citations of 146. So again, those numbers are increasing every month. Printout, if anyone wants to see our current activity per every call that we've received, it's all broken down here. Again, I try to be transparent with everything, but we did have some good news this past week. We had a huge fraud investigation. I don't know if anybody saw it on Facebook. It's contacted by Affairs Tribune, did an interview for them for the paper, and also the Kokomo Tribune. This arrest made the front page of the Kokomo Tribune. This was solely done by the Galveston Police Department and Officer Flory. Big kudos to Officer Flory for taking the time to put this type of stuff together. He has over 60 hours of this investigation on duty. These are investigations that can't be done like sitting in a car, they need done at the office, collaborating with the FBI, U.S. Marshal Service, Hoosier Lottery, their security team, and as well as other state agencies I listed in the press release. We don't usually take on cases this big, but it was a fraud case in our town. I think the total case was over tens of thousands of dollars. It was on a tap-to-pay scheme, something that's never happened in our state. We were the first to kind of take it on and tackle it. The FBI kind of educated me on what it was, so we knew how to investigate it. Officer Floyd ran with it, and he did a great job. If you don't know Officer Floyd, he's a full-time police department officer at Logansport. He works night shift. He dedicated a lot of time to this. If you think 60 hours of on the phone, typing up warrants, search warrants to cell phone companies, to rental car companies, to tracking his car on flock camera systems that we use to track vehicles and criminals. The amount of work of his file is probably about that thick. So everything that's documented through that, it's a huge process. So there are a lot of things going on. I know with the road construction, but we have managed our time very well to be able to investigate these large scale crimes that other agencies probably wouldn't take the time to mess with, because in the totality of the state, it's not that big of a crime. But in our town, it's a very huge crime. I know the Fast Lane Foods is very thankful for bringing this guy to justice. He's going to be extradited back from Georgia by the Sheriff's Department. So he's going to have his day in court in Cass County. Hopefully the restitution process takes place and he can repay Fast Lane Foods over the next several years once he gets finished with DOC. He's got state charges, I think, warrants out of 3 other states right now. So I don't think he's going to be out anytime soon. Mr. Brian Adams will have his day to interview with Officer Floyd when he gets to Cass County, see what he's got to say. But it was a very huge case, 10 months of investigations. So see Officer Floyd, you know who he is, give him a thank you that he did a very good job with it. So it's good recognition for our department. Big paper like Cookman Tribune to put that stuff in the paper on the front page. So big kudos to that. As far as anything else, I don't have much of anything else, unless there's questions.
Questions? Okay, standing committees, Park and Recreation. Marsha. Podium's good. Seeing right there, it doesn't.
I'm Marsha Riggs. I'm interim or acting, I don't know what to call it, president of the park board. And I do want to give you a heads up, particularly when we're in this building. We are looking at roof problems, possible replacement of roof problems, and water leaks. We're not quite sure what that means, but I'm going to give you a heads up because those are 2 expensive projects. The other thing I want to tell you about is Live United Day is September 12th. At the next park board meeting, we will be finalizing some of the projects at the park that will be done on that day. And it's a day for volunteers to help us out. Thank you.
Marsha, when you get that list, can you give it to me or get it to Melanie at the high school? Because I'm pretty sure that we'll get part of them.
Okay.
So I'm coordinating the county for this area with Karen. And so we should be able to coordinate with how she splits her kids up.
We should have that after 2 weeks.
Yep. Okay. And if anybody wants to help volunteer that day, get with me and I can get you the release form that you need. We would love to have extra hands and help. Planning and development.
We did go through the planning of the new gas station down there.
Thank you, Marsha.
Seen the paperwork for everything, the designs. I think we had 3 concerns. One, the drive-through would cross behind the building and connect with the church parking lot. And they agreed that they would pay and be responsible for all trash and cleanup, even the church's property. And then they would make sure the church also had drivable access 24/7 during the whole construction. And the big concern I had was the fuel tanks. If something happens, they go out, leave, go out of business, who's responsible for those tanks that are there? So that was being addressed. And selling a diesel fuel. We only got one person in town that sells diesel. It would be a great, we're a diesel community. So those were the things that were addressed, concerned. A couple little minor things. I think they're working out, but hopefully that'll Permit at my place at 415 West Howard on the garage is taken care of, so it's being taken care of. Other than that, that's all we have.
Mike, I'm curious, just because I know several at the church, were they communicated with on what the plans are? Or do,
They've been in talks with that. And
Okay.
They've been hand in hand, and they've been really working good from what I mean, last month was the only meeting that I actually was involved with. But from the engineer that came in and spoke with us and showed us everything, they work really good hand in hand, and they're talking really good. I don't know if the other neighbors have been notified yet. They probably should be, because they were going to be discontinuing access to the storage facilities and Dollar General. So there was supposed to be 2 side accesses there that I think is not going to be there no more. John, I think you've seen the plans. The drainage is going to be on the south side of that, correct?
That's
And
how
then-
I saw it, yes.
And then the water and the sewage is on the north side.
The water and sewer goes out back.
Right, to the northeast side of the building.
Yes.
So I believe they've communicated, from what I understood at the meeting, that they communicated pretty good with each other and their neighbors, and they're really working good together. The church is gonna get a new parking lot out of it, so, and a new driveway. So the other 2 neighbors, as far as Dollar General and the storage units, I can't speak for that right now.
okay,
Did you say a time frame?
I don't have a time frame.
and Justin's not here.
So I'm hoping that they would get started pretty soon, because someone needs to mow and maintain the.
Right, I asked you.
That's, yeah,
Right.
So that was gonna be something for Wednesday night's meeting, that, hey, someone really needs to take care of that, you know, it's still their responsibility if they're the landlord.
I don't know how that works. I know just a little bit that we've done. I was thinking anytime that it changed the access to any other parts, that it required some kind of public meeting. Or not a public meeting, but a notification of, well, I think it actually is a public meeting, allowing those neighbors to have input.
Now, I know, I talked to Justin yesterday, and he said that that was a handshake deal, just a gentleman's agreement, with the entrance to his property with the storage units, and they were okay with losing that part of it.
Okay, so
So
Justin
he-
is aware.
Right. but
Okay.
I think he wants notified of the hearing, so they can at least attend and get informed of what was going
So there is a hearing, to your
on.
knowledge?
To my knowledge, no, there's not a hearing yet
Okay.
set at this time.
All right. Okay. Like I said, I'm not sure how that really works, but I
I'll
was
find
thinking.
out Wednesday night.
Okay, and do you know too, I know this just because of other conversations where I've been contacted by the funeral home, in their deed, because it's not town centered, there is a setback base that they can't be extended beyond the front of the funeral home. Do you know if their plans include that?
Something about the view, and there couldn't be an obstruction
Right.
view so far from the building. So I know that's in talks and being addressed. We'll have to see what.
Okay, you might reach out to Chris Weaver on that, because
Yeah.
they're the ones that sold that property. And that was one of the few things that, we did try to reach out to people in the community on, because when we were trying to look at some things on the planning and with Aaron, Sonny and I knew that there had been a question about that before. And so we reached out to them and asked. It was actually Justin that had the actual wording on it at the time. But that was done in the deed. So it's not something that we can do within, but it's set in their deed.
Yeah, I
And
know
so-
something was in writing that there couldn't be any
Yeah.
structure beyond a certain point.
So
And I
it
did see in those plans where the canopy and the fuel pumps, I believe, would be a structure. I believe that's gonna be considered a structure. So that is something that if they can't work out together, obviously I don't think we can get involved with that.
Right.
That'd be illegal.
and that's what, that's one of the things that we've told Chris all along, because as we looked at it, it was no, we are not changing anything on our frontage. That's definitely between all of you. So, okay, thanks. Okay, BZA, we don't have anything. ADA, there really isn't any changes right now. I will update the form in the next few weeks with the things that we have changed for this year because I think it gets reported in August. Aviation, we don't have a report, but as John said, they do have their DOT approval until July 31st of 2026. New business. I promised Brent from the fire department that he could be first on new business. And this would be the vacating of the alley. So what's your request? Yep, that way we can hear, or even right there, so.
Well, he was just motioning, I didn't know if he.
That had been vacated a few years back because the fire department requested.
But here's the problem, it was never filed.
Oh, it wasn't?
Nope. So that what Brent does is request, I will explain what Barry and them dug up and what we have and why we're sitting here today. You're right, it was approved, but it was not filed.
Okay.
Yeah.
So back in, what was it, 2011?
Yeah.
It was, we did a grant through some of Obama's funds to potentially build onto the station. And we have asked the town to vacate that alley so that if we build an additional bay, instead of pulling in and pulling right, we can pull in and pull left. And, the alley may fluctuate a little bit. It would still be a pass-through, but it is just so we don't have to have those setbacks and whatnot. So we don't have to split the building. So there's been some talks of maybe something coming in the future, again, in the way of a grant. So it come to mind that, hey, we never did get a deed to that little parcel. So I reached out to Cindy, earlier in the year. And so Sunny's been working very hard trying to find the minutes, and she found them. So.
Barry found
Oh, very found. Okay, sorry. Sorry, I thought Sunny was the one that was.
Everybody had their fingers.
Yeah, it was.
Team effort
I
there.
mean, it was just the other day.
Right.
All right, so in the process of that, yes, Jeff, you're right. It was approved by the council in 2011 to allow them to vacate that alley. It was never filed with the appropriate places. And so we tried to hand it to Brad last month and say, what do we do with this? And he said, it wasn't just the last 2 or 3 months, you need to start over. So we need to start over and actually approve the vacating of the alley between the fire station and the lot to the east of the fire station, if we so choose to do that. So I guess we probably
So
need
can
a
I make a
motion.
motion
Yep.
that we approve the Galveston Volunteer Fire Department to, how should I word that? We approve vacating the alley between the fire station plots and the lot to the east of the fire station. I made that motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, motion carries. Now I guess the question is, Brad, what do we do to make this legal?
For sure, for real. Yeah.
We've got to run through the process again. So I think we have vacated an alley or two, perhaps something here. If not, I know I have elsewhere. There is some notice requirements and some timing requirements, but it's not too terribly strenuous, so we move on.
Okay, and can we make sure we file it? So in 10, 12, 14 years, somebody's not accusing us. Okay, while he is up there, one of the things that we're going to talk about down the way is purchasing a lawnmower. But a few months ago, Sunny and I were meeting with our park people, and one of the things that they recommended that we join Sourcewell, because in that situation, all of the bidding is done for us. I have asked Brent, because he is familiar with it from the fire department side and from the side of a business, to explain to us what that is, and then us to potentially consider whether or not this is something that we want to do.
So Sourcewell is like a form of like a co-op that basically it's based in, I believe it's Minnesota, but it's an organization that government entities, towns, schools, county highways, county departments as a whole. The state, basically, they can become a member of this organization, and that organization has already gone to the manufacturers that are sponsors of their organization, and they have already levied like lowest bid price. Kind of like, I don't know if the sheriff gets involved in it, but like the state police, like you can buy cars at the state price. Like we've bought ambulances before.
Tires.
Yeah, tires. We've gotten
Computers.
tires before,
That's it.
computers, radios.
Yep.
We've always gotten a bid discount for when we buy ambulances, because for a long time the state always used Ford. Well, in this case, Sourcewell is an organization that does that nationwide. And when you go to them, I mean, they have sources of so many, pretty much all the major manufacturers. And they've already set, like, what the lowest bid price is that manufacturer is willing to sell at, as fleet pricing, basically. So Sonny had asked me, or keep looking at Sonny and say, Cindy had asked me back in the spring when I was working on the park project, what if I was familiar with Sourcewell. And I deal with Sourcewell a lot with airports and schools and things buying mowers from us, as well as we've bought some things through the fire department of different manufacturers where the vendor is a vendor of Sourcewell. So there's no reason to go out and get multiple bids, because whoever's selling it can't do anything with that price. That price is already established between Sourcewell and whoever the manufacturer is. So from my understanding of it, looking at it from the town side instead of being a vendor, it looks to me like there's no money exchange. It's literally you sign up for a membership. It's free. So, and then you can go on there and literally just shop anything. I mean, radios, guns, tires. I mean, you're talking about a roof, I mean, there's vendors of roofing materials.
That's good
Well,
to
that's
know.
fine. Yeah.
So,
Okay.
I mean, anybody who makes some sort of equipment or material, there's probably something out there somewhere. So it's something that from a government side and trying to get the best pricing and save the most money, that's the place to do it. Because to buy through Sourcewell, it's cheaper than, like in the mower world, I can't buy mowers as cheap as the town is going to buy mowers through Sourcewell. So that's how Sourcewell works. So they're doing the digital for you, as opposed to you guys having to go out and shop, and then figure out apples and oranges. So.
Yeah, thank you. So anybody have any questions
Thank
that
you
Brent
for that,
could possibly answer before he takes off on us about what this actually does?
How's this company make money? Sourcewell, if they don't charge anything, how they?
I'm assuming that the vendors pay into it, is my assumption, because, I've looked into it to sign up for the town, and there's no charge for it. So I'm assuming that the manufacturers must pay into it. Obviously, it's got to be somebody's for them to
Right.
survive.
This would
Correct.
be Walmart pricing for like government entity supplies.
Right.
They cut the middleman out.
Yep.
The retailers out.
Well, because we're going to talk about a mower a little bit later, but my understanding from you is the mower that John wants to recommend, if we come to you and ask you to bid it, and you're one of the only people around here that sells it, you can't match this price.
Right.
At all, right?
Right. You're basically buying from the manufacturer. I'm just the local dealer to supply it to you. A fine example is the solar fields. The solar fields north of Walton, they bought 6 mowers from us. They didn't buy them from us, they bought them from Hustler. We were just the local vendor to assemble them and deliver them to them. So
And then do you get to honor warranties if that,
we
you would get
we
warranty
do the warranties and
reimbursement
then
from
we
it?
submit them just like as if we sold them.
Okay.
So, yes.
So there is potential for you to gain from these sales.
From the
you
service.
You just hate to think that you're taking money away from all of your local vendors too, if,
Basically, there is a set price in there for setup and assembly and delivery
okay,
for the equipment. It's a minimal amount, but it gets you that, but yet Like in their case, you know, they're buying tons of blades and belts, and I mean, they're mowing a jungle out there, if you haven't seen. They buy lots of parts, so.
Okay.
So yes.
Okay, so knowing what's coming up, do we want to go ahead and entertain a motion on that particular one, or do we want to wait until there's discussion down here with the mower? Thoughts?
You join Sourcewell?
Well, because it would take the recommendation of the council to join.
That sounds like a no-brainer, it's no charge.
Barry?
I did some independent research, and everything that Brent said, except calling you Sonny,
I'll forgive.
is totally accurate, okay? Yes, the vendor vendor or manufacturer is who pays them a little, just a little bit, okay? So from this standpoint, and a business perspective, I think it's a good deal, a very good deal.
Well, sometimes gathering bids and looking at them and improving is time consuming and holds up the process too. So this would alleviate a lot of that as well.
You know, what we could do is a test, you know, for 2 or 3 transactions, and do both, do the source well, and then see if we can beat it. You know?
Well, we know for a fact that what we're going to discuss later, we can't get from another manufacturer. Or another, not from another manufacturer. And it is one that's part of Sourcewell. So, Mike?
You're wanting the mower, right, John? You want to purchase the mower
Through the aviation.
to the aviation?
Yes.
How fast you need this?
Yesterday?
I mean, is it something you need yesterday?
Yes.
Oh, okay, so, yeah, let's get this done.
Okay, so then I think we need to entertain a motion for Barry to go ahead and join Sourcewell. And then, I'm assuming we don't have to always use it. We can always go back and say on other things, hey, let's do both here for a while. And
I make a motion for Barry to join Sourcewell on behalf of the town.
I'll second that motion.
we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed. Okay. Hearing number 1. You want to lead, Brent?
Okay,
We'll let you
good.
lead now. Yep, we're good.
Okay.
Thanks.
Just call me if you need something. We'll be
All right.
on training.
Okay, thanks.
you.
Explain that better.
That's what I want to do here.
My name is Nicole Krasowski. I believe I've had the pleasure of speaking to you all before, but I work for Baker Tilly. Most importantly, I work with Barry on things like town reporting requirements. And yeah, I just have another copy. And in this case, it has to do with the 2026 budget process. So I will be going over the summary of the 2026 budget with you, just kind of giving you the background of everything that is set up so far. So starting with page 1, we open you up to a summary of the 2026 budget. This is essentially a summary cash flow based on the numbers that we have put together so far for the 2026 budget. Starting with the operating receipts, I just kind of want to explain to you what each line item means and how we got to these numbers. So property taxes, for 2026, the state has maxed out the growth of your property tax revenue at 4%. That is statewide, it's not just special for Galveston. So the amounts that you see across the funds for that line item, that will show a 4% growth from your property taxes from 2025. Your circuit breaker credits are credits for the property tax payer. Essentially, when the property tax gets to a certain amount, if it is above a certain percentage of their gross assessed value, they are limited to pay that max amount. So that it is lost revenue, but that's not really anything that the town of Galveston can control. In 2025, that percent for the town was 9.7% of lost revenue of the total property taxes. The next line, estimated excess shortfall from SBA 1. I'm sure the town of Galveston has been aware of all the legislative changes that are happening within the state of Indiana. Most importantly, the impacts of Senate Enrolled Act 1. The main piece of the changes within this bill will come 2028. However, in the meantime, there are increased deductions that are happening in a phased-in approach over the next 6 to 10 years. And the Legislative Services Agency actually released a document on April 9th of 2025 that listed all of the estimated loss based across the entire Senate Act 1, Senate Enrollment Act 1 for all the units in Indiana. And it's just a blanket number of estimated loss for 2026 through 2028. It's a little unfortunate because the impacts we estimate will go 6 to 10 years. So only having 3 years of estimated loss is unfortunate, but we are working with what we have. And based on the amount that was listed on that report, reported by the LSA, we then divided that total amount by the allocations of your funds that are receiving property taxes and implemented that accordingly in those funds. So that'll get you to your net levy amount. Now, not all of your funds receive property taxes. Some of them are strictly other state taxes or simply charges for services, in which those are directly linked to what you have done so far for the first 6 months of 2025, as well as a historical look back to 2024. That's how we estimate those revenues. Local income tax, I just want to note, this report was prepared on August 5th, and on August 14th, the state Department of Local Government released their 2026 estimate. So that line, those amounts will change come time to actually submit the budget. However, this is just a review and summary of the budget just for implementation purposes. So that I am happy to report all 3 of those funds that receive local income tax are going to increase in those revenues based on the 2026 estimates released by the DLGF. Like I said, everything from license and permits to other receipts is all based on historical revenues received within each of those funds, which then brings you down to your operating disbursements. There are 4 to 5 levels of operating disbursements. We call them your 100s, your 200s, your 300s, and your 400s. There's also a debt service option, but the town of Galveston does not have any outstanding debt. So within those categories, there are multiple accounts that make up those categories. Within each bucket, within each fund, you can shift between the accounts. However, if you decided later in the year that you wanted more budget in your supplies line item, you would have to do a transfer of appropriation rather than, or an additional appropriation, rather than just sharing the budget across the entire fund. So although the accounts within those 100s, those 200s can share budgets, a 100 level account cannot share a budget with a 200 level account. So that's the important piece there. So even if you see later in the year that your general fund has ample budget in supplies and you want to make a services and charges purchase that doesn't have as much budget, you would either have to do a transfer of appropriation or an additional appropriation, which I know that the town of Galveston is familiar with both, so has been very proactive this year. So that brings you down to the green highlighted line, which is estimated increase or decrease in the fund balance. That simply shows if you will have a cash flow in the year, a positive cash flow or a negative cash flow. It's not a red flag to see a negative cash flow, especially since the way that we set up these cash flows for you to identify the 2026 budget and the estimated results, we view it as the DLGF reviews it, which is they assume that you're going to spend 100% of your 2025 and your 2026 budgets. As you are aware, we're not yet finished with 2025, so the estimated beginning fund balances that you see on the line below the green line, that's all assuming that you're going to spend 100% of your 2025 budget, and that is almost never the case. if anything, you maybe spend 80% of your 2025 budget. So this is almost a worst case scenario picture for you based on what the current budget numbers are showing for 2026 and 2025. That brings you down to your estimated fund balance, and then right below that is an operating balance percentage. Now, our goal for our clients is to have each fund at least 50% or more in operating percentage balance. And what that means is essentially if all revenue stopped within that fund tomorrow, you would still be able to operate for 6 months without receiving an additional penny. And that's important because for funds like your general fund, your park and rec fund, those are property tax driven funds, which means your largest distributions of revenue into that fund are June and December, and that's a 6-month lag there. So that's why it's important to identify those, and specifically those property tax funds for that 50% mark. And as you can see, majority of your funds are very healthy in estimated balances, even assuming you're going to spend 100% of both years' budgets. The only ones that dip further below the 50% mark, and even 15% is like the lowest that we would really like to see any fund go, except for the local road and street and the MVH fund, simply because those monies and those funds are so restricted already that if you have 2 projects back to back, which I know the town of Galveston did have a couple big CCNG projects and even one this year that you're in process of. Since those monies are restricted for projects like that anyways, we don't mind seeing those balances go below 50% or even 15%, as long as you have a couple makeup years following that to replenish those funds. So like I said, across the board on the first page, besides those 2 funds, you have very healthy estimated balances. I do also want to note, I did provide to you a proposed budget book, which is the largest document that I also provided behind the cash flows. I don't plan on going into that simply because that only shows the current Gateway budget forms as is. And as of right now, we do not have the 2026 certified net assessed value from the state and from the county. So until we get that information, I'm not going to do a nice bound copy for you, Barry, for the budget book, just because we know that some of that information is going to change. So moving on to the next page of the cash flow, you see a continuation of funds. CCD, as you may remember, is also a property tax driven fund, and actually the town of Galveston did reestablish your CCD fund this year, so it will be receiving the maximum 5 cents per $100 of net assessed value. And again, since we don't have the 2026 net assessed value yet, it is important for us to be checking I know I'm checking every couple hours to see when we're going to be getting that number from the county, because that will, unless your net assessed value decreases, that will increase all numbers shown on your CCD fund within this cash flow for 2026. The other funds, or the other fund that dips below that 15% is your seeded fund. That is also a local income tax driven fund, which again, that line item for 2026 did increase. It increased to $33,000, almost $600, or $33,600 for the DLGF 2026 estimate. So you will see a slight increase there. But the reason that dipped so low, again, is because the 2025 budget for this fund was a bit bigger. So that kind of drove the estimated fund balance down for ending 2025. Again, you don't spend nearly as much as 100% of your budget, especially in CEDIT. CEDIT is mainly used for non-recurring items, maybe some capital expenditures, or in this case this year, I know we still have a CCMG match coming out of CEDIT. But other than that, there really are no recurring charges. So this is just kind of like a money fund, which, as I'm also sure you might be aware, with the SBA one, all of your local income tax funds will be changing as of 2028 for the town of Galveston, since the population is below 3,500. you will have to petition to your county starting January 1, 2027 in order to receive any local income tax starting in 2028. So if you do not petition, if you do not go to your county, you will be losing all revenues shown on the local income tax line for those three funds, which affect your general fund, your public safety lit fund, and your seated fund. So that's important to note for the future. So I would suggest maybe next year's budget to really kind of dive into the budget amounts for those three funds, since we know that the revenues will be changing in the future. But it's not something that needs to be so closely reviewed this year, since the effects don't happen until 2028. All of the other funds, like I said, are well above the 50% mark that we like to see, and the total funds listed here come out to about 71% of operating budget across all your funds, even including the MVH and LRS funds that dip pretty low this year. But again, I like to state this because it's not really how we operate, but it's how the DLGF operates, is we assume that you're gonna spend 100% of your costs that are shown on 2025 budget and 2026 budget. Moving on to the next page, we have a couple speedometer graphs to just kind of give you a visual representation of your fund balances for the funds that are shown on these couple pages. As you can see, your general is well within the green, that's good. Your LRS is within the yellow, that's not something to truly worry about unless you see multiple years of yellow and creeping into the red. MVH is red this year, and assuming that you're gonna spend a couple years afterwards to just kind of recoup the balance in that fund, that shouldn't be a problem either. Public safety lit is well within the green, and parks and recreation, CCI, well within the green. CCD is within that red piece, but again, once we get the 2026 map, unless that for some reason decreases, which I don't think I've ever seen an app decrease in my 4 years of working at Baker Tilly, I don't expect that to happen for CCD. The final page of the cash flow gives you a visual breakdown of your property tax revenues and local income tax revenues and where that revenue is being spent. So within the first section of that, you see your gross property tax that you're expected to receive, your local income tax, which again, that amount is going to grow since we have since gotten 2026 estimates from the DLGF. Bringing that to a total on the far right column, and then summarized in the graphs below is where that money is being spent. So majority of the monies within both property tax and local income taxes spent on town operations, with the next large percentage being public safety, and just small park percentage as well. Any questions on this?
What's the gray part on there? You got 2% and 2% is, it's like green and gray, the blue and green. What's that gray sliver? Is that just extra?
On the last page.
You know, on the last page?
Yeah, I see that. We forgot a data label. Looking at it, I think it might be streets. Streets. Which is very small, since the majority of your street expenses are coming out of motor vehicle highway.
Also on page 1, general fund.
Yep.
Charges for services. What was that again?
So that is revenue that you receive for anything that the town provides for its residents, whether that's permit fees or, I can actually tell you based on
It
the,
just seemed like a high number is what it.
yeah. Charges for services, the general fund, which all this information is also summarized or provided in detail in the budget book. That's essentially what makes up all of this revenue. Oh, the main driver of that is going to be your garbage and trash collection fees.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So I did print out the budget book for you to review based on the data that's input as is today. But again, once we get that 2026 net assessed value, And we still have to update the 2026 local income tax revenue estimates in this fund. So this will change. The budget book and the cash flows both will change once we get all that final information. But I did want to just give this to you, just to review for yourself in the meantime. The one thing within this budget book that I do want to draw your attention to is the Form 3, which is kind of the second and third page into it. This is the advertisement for your 2026 budget. This has been posted and published on Gateway as of August 6th. It's required that you were to post this in Gateway 10 days prior, calendar days prior to your first public hearing, which is today. So everything within this line item, your column 2 budget estimate, that is the total amounts that are also showing on your cash flows. However, we don't have all of the funds that are budgeted on the cash flows, just the main revenue driver ones that are important for your visibility. I also want to mention on column 3, we show your property tax levy. And as you can see, if you were to compare for general fund, for example, it's much higher on this form than it is on the cash flows that we have. And that is simply because we inflate all of the property tax levy amounts on Gateway, just in case for this example, we don't have the net assessed value, so we really don't know what that is going to do. So by inflating your levy amounts on the Form 3, it provides that you're going to get your maximum levy, no matter what the net assessed value ends up being, whether that grows or declines. So we make sure to inflate it a good amount, especially your CTD fund, since you did reestablish it this year, to reflect the most amount that you would be able to get out of that fund, which would be the 5% or 5-cent max rate. So even though you publish these large inflated amounts, the DLGF, when they review it, they'll bring it down to what you're actually legally able to have within your rate limits for your town.
Column 3, the 476,000.
Yes. That would be the
447 that's on this page? Or that, I'm looking at it wrong here.
The 476?
The 447 is this estimated civil. What's that number? Where's that number located on here?
That is their estimate, the DLGF
Oh, okay.
estimate.
Okay.
So yeah, you can see we're inflating quite a bit here, just to make sure that you're getting that maximum levy until we get your certified net assessed value. Any other questions?
Well, I had messaged Amber and she had told me that you would be here. So the net assessed value, that includes properties that are not tax paying properties? Is that what I'm understanding?
That would be within your gross assessed value.
Okay.
So your net assessed value is going to be all your properties that after deductions, after the credits, that is what you are.
Okay, so that's
tax
gross
on.
assessed. And how does that make a difference for us? I know we've talked about, so it's not a secret, in saying here, we've talked about annexing a couple of properties that are not taxable entities as far as property taxes.
Okay.
Is that to our benefit or not? I know that's one of the things Christy Householder had told us to ask you guys, because is it we should go ahead, we should forget it unless we end up developing a piece of property that we would want to annex later.
Right. For present purposes, it wouldn't be super beneficial unless someone were to develop on that property and it would become a taxable property. However, I'm not an expert in annexations. We do have a separate team for that. So I am more than happy to reach out to them to get a better answer for you.
Because I think she forwarded the email to you that I sent her last week, right?
Yeah.
So that really would be our question.
Okay.
On these two pieces of property, there is the potential somewhere down the road that there will be development on another piece of property. But that also could end up being a county thing too. But we could not ever annex a piece of property unless we had the adjoining property as part of the town limits. So that's really where that question is coming in. But both pieces are non-taxable at this point.
All right. Yeah, I can get with Paige Sandstone. She is all things fire territory and annexations related, and I will see what she has to say about that.
Okay, because that'll tell us whether we want to go ahead on that other.
Any other questions on the budget? So the meeting today is really just to get public feedback and, just get familiar with the budget and what's being presented this year for 2026. If you do have any suggested changes, one thing to know is for the Form 3, you can reduce all the amounts on that form, but you cannot increase. So no budgets can be increased for given that amount. And I know that I also worked with Barry to even reduce before we posted the Form 3 because some of your DLGF review funds were going negative on our cash flows and on the gateway forms just because they view it as both budget years being spent down, which is never the case really. Those few funds were reduced just to make sure that they're not going to be cut by the time the DLGF reviews them. But other than that, it was a very straightforward process. Barry was on the ball, as always. Very early. This is my first client budget hearing, so that tells you something. How Galveston is ahead of the game this year.
Okay, because it's a public hearing, are there any questions from the audience?
I have a question. The public safety Lloyd funding,
Yes.
will we have to petition that from county council in 2027, or we have to wait till 2028? If it's ending in 28,
Yep.
can you start at 27?
Yep. Local income tax is a year in arrears, so you would have to petition as soon as January 1st, 2027 to get that. And one change that will happen, whether you petition or not, is that you will no longer be receiving revenues in your PS Lit and your CDIP funds. All of the revenues of local income tax will go directly into your general fund. So your PS Lit funds and your CDIP funds will be existing until all the funds are gone. And then all of that expense will have to be shifted to your general fund.
So I won't have a line item specific for that. I'll have to request it from the general to be spent.
Yes.
So there's still stipulations on public safety Lloyd fund, what it be spent on? Because once it goes to general, it's for everybody.
Yes, the general is for everybody. So that is one, you could see it as a pro, is that the revenues that the town is going to be receiving is a lot more wide use across departments, but it is no longer restricted for specific purposes now.
What can it be used for currently?
Public safety lit can only be used for public safety. Your CDIP funds are typically used for economic development, which, that's a real wide range of things.
Okay, so on the public safety lit though, what kinds of things can that be used for?
Police salaries, anything supplies related for the police department, anything,
But if that goes to the general, then flip it.
or anybody, any department.
Any-
Yeah, you can,
Like
any-
whatever you want.
yes. You would just have to be shifting all your expenses from that public safety lit fund to the general fund. Yeah.
So the reality of what we've done, the Tahoes, okay, the police vehicles were part of Lloyd. We established a major purchase line item, to cover that. Weapons, just the things that typically a police department would do.
Do we use it for salaries at all?
Salaries is part of GF. Now in his case, in the marshal's case, we have a $20,000 partial to take care of it.
Okay, so the lit cannot be used for salaries currently,
Yes.
or it can?
It can, in the public safety lit,
Okay,
can be used for police salaries.
Deputies are paid out of the general fund, there's a line item, and if you recall.
I'm just asking if we could pay them out of lit.
Well,
Yeah,
Okay,
yes, if there was funds.
right.
If there was
You're
money.
looking at a certain amount of money stands right now where the lit structure is. Everything that goes into that public safety lit fund, restricted for public safety.
okay, no, I understood that. I just wanted to know within that whether it could be used for salaries or
But
not.
that's why a lot of my clients chose not to use it for salaries because lit, although it was the same structure for a long period of time. We're seeing now with the legislative changes, you can't count on it for anything.
Okay.
So that's why a lot of people don't use it for salaries.
Once it goes to Lloyd, to the general, it's up for grabs.
So, okay, so is it, because I'm hearing two different funds, is it LOIT or is it LIT?
Lloyd, it's the
It's
same,
like, yeah,
it's one and the same.
It's the same.
I call it.
Okay,
So when it goes to general, it can be used for salary, for the.
The general is currently paying salaries for police.
Okay.
okay.
It's all very confusing. And I know that the legislative changes.
I understand, I just
has
want to make sure
not
if I'm going to petition the county, when I need to start that, 'cause I
Yeah.
don't want to be late, because then you're.
Well, is it- So wait a minute, is it him petitioning the county or is it, who's going to do that petitioning of the county?
The wording of the legislation is not clear. It doesn't even state what the county, if the county can reject your petition or if they have to grant your petition. Another confusing aspect of the legislative changes is counties are maxed at a 2.9 rate. So all units within Cass County that are above 3,500 population, they can adopt their own lit. They don't need county's approval. So if come January 1st, you have 2 or 3 units petitioning for, or adopting a 1.2% lit, it's a confusing wording. So we're waiting for more clarification from the state on how that is going to be addressed when it comes to who gets the pieces of the 2.9 max county rate. So we're actually encouraging our clients to start those discussions now with the county, because if one unit in the county is going to be making any sort of move, it's going to adjust or affect the rest of the units in the county.
That's how the county works, it takes a year to get something next year, county, it really takes a whole year to get something at the end of next year.
So who was that petition made to? Is it made to the
It would be
commissioners?
the county council.
Council.
Council or commissioners?
Council, for the fiscal accountability of the county.
Okay, and then, this, I may be totally off on this one because this is overwhelming, but the other one that was overwhelming was the one that I went to at, I think it was at Ivy Tech. Maybe it was like, okay, I don't know. But anyway, only one of the towns, a petition by one of the towns really meant, and it might not have been this particular one. I'd have to go back into my notes of that, not thinking this would come up tonight. But if one town petitioned, it meant everybody shared in the pot. Was that this?
If one town petition, I mean, the legislative is not very clear on how they're going to be divvying up this information. But if you petition, that is essentially you throwing your hat in the ring of, okay, I want a piece of the allocation if the county, or when the county adopts a lit.
Okay.
So I do think that each unit, from my understanding right now, each unit would have to petition if they wanted to receive a piece of the allocation. But again, the wording is just very unclear right now.
Okay, and I may be thinking incorrect, it may have been something else, but there was a lot.
There are a lot.
There was a lot of info.
You don't know off the top of your head what House Bill that under, do you?
SCA 1,
What is it?
Senate Enact Bill 1. Trust me, we're still trying to wrap our heads around it. I mean, this year has been one for the books. I never had to use my brain so much trying to.
Stay out.
Yeah, so obviously we're learning more every day. We are happy to help in whatever way we can. So yeah, Barry has our contact information. We're good pals with Barry. If you have any questions, I think Cindy, you have my email.
Okay.
Barry can get emails for any further communications.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anything else we need to, that's really it, right?
And again, just for the sake of clarification, the DLGF stands for the Department of Local Government Finance, okay? And they oversee the whole budgeting process and some other things. And we are in compliance. We sent Form 3, and we'll be developing the rest of the forms here as we go. And next month, we'll be hearing 2 where you adopt what we put together. And one reminder to council is I forwarded you an email with my explanation of what areas we would have to grow. A case in point would be the deputy balance, right? Because we're doing a great job out there, but we didn't budget, for it. There's plenty of funds to take care of it, okay? But if you recall that, I'm just giving you a couple reminders, okay? The allocation of workers and everything was split per the ordinance, which happened after we did the budget for this year, right? So now it's a third, right? So those type of things. But most of the areas, most of the line items, you may recall, I increased them by 3% because that's very close to the annual inflation for next year, per the feds. Okay, but we can keep it that way, or we can move it down. We can't go up. Okay, so you might refer to that and that email and such. But.
And even now, you can still shift between the categories that I mentioned, the 100s, the 200s, the 300s. You just can't in total increase your budgets for those. So there can still be some manipulation.
Right.
Okay. So there's nothing else we really need to do with this one, right? Okay. All right, so the next item of business, thank you. The next item of business is the reading number 2 of the ordinance for large vehicle traffic in town limits. There were some changes on this because it took into account, instead of just particular streets, it's any street in town. So it says, whereas the town council of the town of Galveston has the authority to regulate and or restrict commercial truck operations within the town of Galveston, and whereas the town council of the town of Galveston believes the operation of commercial trucks in certain areas of the town of Galveston poses a risk to public safety and traffic operations in and around the town of Galveston. Now, therefore, be it ordained by the town of Galveston, Indiana, that it is unlawful for the owner, operator of a driver of any truck with more than 2 axles, including the truck tractor of a semi-trailer, bus, truck tractor, recreational vehicle, semi-trailer, or for the person in charge of any of the aforementioned vehicles to operate or park any such vehicle on any street in the town of Galveston. The definitions, recreational vehicle. The term recreational vehicle is used in this section shall have the same definition for the term recreational vehicle set out in Indiana Code 913-150. Semi-trailer, the term semi-trailer is used in this section shall have the same definition for the term recreational vehicle as set out in Indiana Code 913-164. Truck tractor, the term truck tractor is used in this section shall have the same definition for the term truck tractor as set out in Indiana Code 913-180. And truck, the term truck as used in this section shall have the same definition for the term truck as set out in Indiana Code 913-188. The term shall not include a pickup truck with or without a camper shell. The fine for a violation in this section shall be as follows. The first offense is up to $200, the second offense is up to $300, and the third offense or greater is up to $500. The fine shall be payable directly to the clerk treasurer of the town of Galveston within 30 days of the date of issuance. The town of Galveston may file an action in the court of competent jurisdiction of the aforementioned if the aforementioned fine is not paid in a timely manner. If legal action is filed to enforce this section, then the offending party shall be responsible for all court costs and for reasonable attorney fees to collect the fine. Notwithstanding any provision to the contrary within this ordinance, the operation of commercial trucks on town streets shall be permitted for the limited purpose of making private deliveries and pickups from residences, businesses, or other properties located within the town, provided that such operation is conducted using the most direct and reasonable route to and from the destination. The exception shall apply solely to commercial trucks engaged in bona fide delivery or service activities to residents and or businesses in the town, and shall not be construed to permit through traffic or general commercial truck travel unrelated to deliveries or services within the town. And then it just goes on to say that it would take effect over any other ordinances. So, think we need a motion to even be able to discuss it. A motion to accept, what do we do on an
Well,
ordinance?
we're on a second reading, so, yeah, you make a motion to adopt,
Okay,
and then allow there to be a discussion and a vote.
okay. So do we have a motion to adopt?
I'll make the motion to adopt the ordinance.
A motion, do we have a second? Okay, any discussion?
So, I just have an issue with the finding on first offense. If someone doesn't know that this ordinance is in effect, when they get pulled over, why should they get a $200 fine when they don't know about it yet? I think there should be a warning.
We also have to have signage. We talked about that or not. We're gonna have to have signs entering Galveston that say something to the effect of there being an ordinance in effect. So I forget what, John, you probably have seen it, or maybe perhaps you know, but there is signage for these things. I don't recall what the language is, but you need one on all the roads coming in.
Brad, the next action item on the agenda addresses that, not the detail that you're talking about, but.
Perfect, thank you.
Would a truck route, would that cover? If we develop a truck route, which would be 35 and 18?
I think so. The signage is either like no, it might be pointing the trucks to a truck route. I just can't recall if I'm sitting here what the signage is, but there are signs specifically for these situations. And I just have to look it up and find out what it says, but there are signs. It's either directing them in a certain direction or telling them no entry, essentially.
I can address Tom's question of the warning issue. Part of our job as law enforcement is to educate. However, education can sometimes not correct the behavior of driving. It's always ordinances and state statutes of the traffic ticket that we do write always has officer discretion clear for misdemeanor crimes. So putting a restraint on an officer that has to give a warning first would be taking away that officer's discretion for certain things. Essentially, most of our tickets that we wrote, the state statute, has been a one-time through, and they don't come back through because they're a national company, they're coming through, and they're going to ABC destination. They're never going to come back through, so to correct this ordinance or to give a warning, I think that should just be left on the officer's discretionary table, just like other state statutes and crimes up to misdemeanors. Required to give a warning or educate. Kind of depends on the seriousness of the crime, elements of the crime, and the totality of circumstances that driver was behaving. Every situation is handled differently. I would like to have discretion if possible, just because it's nice to have, but it needs to be that way.
So one of the things, and I don't know the answer to this, so I'm really, I truly am asking this. One of the things we've said is this brings the fee, because it's not a fine truly at that point. I think it probably is, but it's not reportable, is what we said. You know, that it doesn't go on their license.
Correct.
Will that stop their fellow employees then as much? Because will their employer even know that there's an issue?
I've talked to a couple hundred truck drivers that came through our area. If not me, my guys have. And the most questions we get asked, is this going on my driving record? I'm going to lose my job. I'm going to lose my driving privileges. So this won't go on their certified driving record in whatever state they're at. However, what we have wrote so far to date, the total numbers, those are going on as a moving violation, disregarding the traffic control device. So if you're a CDL holder, which I am personally, you don't want that moving violation on your CDL. So their company wouldn't even find out about this. Essentially, if they paid it, it would go away.
And that's what I'm saying. So because their company doesn't find it, then you're saying that because now their company finds out about it,
Yes.
they're not allowing their drivers to come this way. But if their company doesn't find out about it,
Right.
then you're gonna have every other driver from that company still coming through.
Right. That's a possibility, yes.
I mean, to me, this is almost defeating our intention for this current situation.
Personally, I like to see them ticketed because every other week we're putting 3 to 4 ton of cold patch down just to restore that, yes, you know, and,
Practicing that on curbing that.
oh, yeah, and on the north side, actually in front of Carver's house, there's a.
There's a new one, because I almost texted you today.
There's on the west side of the street, there's a tile in there, and they collapsed it. Yesterday morning with the rain that we had, it was running down and then coming out onto the roadway. So they collapsed our tile there as well, where they're coming off of North Street, trying to make a turn on the main pole in 950. You know, so personally, I'd like to see them ticketed.
Cindy, one thing that I mentioned, maybe to Nick in passing, but to Joe Flory, is that if you've had a violation with a truck company, okay, either take a picture or just give us, meaning town hall, the name of who it is, if it's roadway or whatever, and we will call them directly. I've done this before in another life, okay, for a different reason, okay. But we'll call roadway or whomever it is.
Yeah, when we print citations, it'll be an e-ticket, so we can leave a copy of the citation, you will have the registered owner of the vehicle, which is typically a company that you can easily send notice to. That's what they do at the prosecuting office.
And, you know, to help this mess, we'll make the contact.
So this is still an e-ticket
Yes,
with this ordinance, even though it's going to be paid to the town?
correct. Correct. E-ticket's just a system we use software to write tickets. We can select ordinance, state statute, federal statute, local ordinance, whatever it is, it's a drop-down box. I've already handled the software portion of this. Is already an e-ticket, we just can't click on it yet because it hasn't been obviously approved. But it's ready to go when it's approved. I just make one phone call and say, hey, we got approved. And then the state will make that ordinance available to us in e-ticket, but it just won't report to the state.
Yeah, and Cindy, we're receiving monies right now for accident reports and things of that nature, and they come over electronically. Or
And that's our license.
I don't know. Personally, I guess I just think that the state law is sufficient. And, you know, if you're silly enough at this point, there are signs. I still am slightly sympathetic because I do not think it is marked well in Walton. But if you're silly enough to come through that signage, you need those points on your license. And especially, you know, if I'm not sure that we should be the police. If you're saying, well, they're concerned because their company is going to find out, us reporting it to them does the same thing. You know, so the only thing it doesn't do is put it on their CDL. But you know what? Another company needs to know that they don't follow the law too.
So here comes where the officer's discretion comes in, and we still can write on our state statute. We're not taking the ability away. Cooperation is huge with law enforcement. If you cooperate on traffic stop, you're more likely, we always say, talk to yourself instead of take it, most likely. I can't speak for everybody, but me, if I was writing a ticket and they weren't happy with it, then, you know, it's so be it. It's how it's going to be. It's my discretion on how egregious the act was. Secondly, you know, we can lower the blow of saying, hey, I'm not writing you a state statute, you're a ordinance, you were fair and friendly, and you know, it's a smooth process for me as an officer, then I'm just going to write you an ordinance. It's no different from like when officers write people for, they were going like 70 mile an hour, they write the ticket for 60 mile an hour. Only 5 will work because it's a little cheaper ticket. That's the discretion that we have as officers in the state of Indiana. So this won't eliminate us from doing the state statute, it just gives us a little bit lesser of a reporting side of how it affects the driver. They're still going to be fine. I think our court costs on that ticket is $165 usually. Swain will assess a $50, $100 court cost. So our fees are right along with what they would be paying in the state as well. It would just give another tool. I think we're getting $2 a ticket under state statute. So it would just give us another option. Like I said, it's not, we're not going to not write state statutes. If we really want to, you know, get our point across, I guess we could write a state statute effective that way. Does that make sense?
So it's just an added tool, is what you're saying?
Correct. Just an added officer discretion. You know, somebody's, you know, they honestly didn't see the sign. The weather was bad. I don't know. The trees grow and block the sign, or someone knocked the sign over before they came through. We can still give that discretionary when we have that interaction to say, hey, I'm not going to write your state statute, which is going to greatly affect you, but I'm still going to write you on the ordinance. Kind of lessens the blow, I would say. That's what I can describe it. Does that make sense?
But I would say if we're also, if we're gonna
I've
take,
seen this stuff in court hundreds of times.
if we're taking pictures and sending it to the company, it's still going to hurt them.
Most likely, yeah.
So,
It just depends how you want to handle it. We'll do whatever.
okay, any other discussion? We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Question. Can I ask you a question?
You guys okay with that?
I'm good.
Okay, yep.
It's talking about all these ordinances stuff, all this being good to the truck drivers and everything. They got truck drivers evidently can't read that. It says right out there on that sign, no trucks. It says right over here on the sign, weight limit 13.5. Semis come down Washington Street all the time. They need something to make them pay attention, I guess.
Well, but they don't. So
Well, okay, so fine.
you've complained to me for years that we don't
Yeah, and they still won't do it.
enforce yours.
But
So,
you can find a few of them, the word will get out. Word of mouth will get to them truck drivers.
okay. All right. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? I'm gonna vote no, but
Did you vote no?
I did.
Majority.
Yeah, it does. So it passes, but. Okay, so then we do need the next one because we need to purchase signs and determine where they need to be placed as coming into town. I know, John, when you originally mentioned changing it to that, you mentioned all the main thoroughfares, but I think there also needs to be one at Jeff's house, like right there at that property, because that is one of the odd places coming into town. There also probably needs to be one coming in on Maple Street coming in.
I was looking, and I just haven't had time to. I was looking at 18 and Maple, where they've been rounding the corner, and I think where the mailboxes were located on the. Yes, but in that vicinity, I think maybe I might be able to set a post, but I don't want to set a post and then the property owner get tired of mowing around it and want it removed. So I put it there. I mean, I'm going to concrete it in, and it's going to be permanent. And we put our signage on that with no trucks, no semis. So that would take care of that area that you're asking about, Cindy. But I have to back down on that because we have a water line right in there.
Right.
And I just don't want to go in there and drive the post.
Well, I just think we need to make sure that we pick up coming into town. Like there where you're talking about, putting one there isn't, I don't know that that's even necessary as much as because they should have already seen.
But it's just not stopping, and this way there would be some signage on Maple before they commit into turning
So
off of
you're talking
18,
about particularly
you know.
this situation.
Yes.
I'm talking about the long term and where all these need to be.
I'm talking long term as well.
Right.
That's what I say. I don't want to put a sign up and then have to take it down, every other week or whatever.
But there's gonna need to be one like at Jeff's house,
That,
because the one will be gone.
there
And-
is
No.
one there on the opposite side of the
But it
of
doesn't,
North Street.
but
Yeah.
it does not state what this needs to state, that there's a local ordinance.
That's right. So you're going to have to make up some signage, what you want ordered, to where I can order them.
And we need to figure out where we need those placed. And I think there's going to have to be one coming in off of the County Line Road at Maple. You're going to have one at Jeff's area. You're going to have one, if you want one on Maple, coming off, because that one's still a little bit different situation than what we're dealing with right now. Because if they're on 18, they're going to have passed that sign coming into town somewhere, whether it's out by the ballpark or whether it's out by, as you're coming around the curve.
Right, but it's gonna take some time to get these signs, made, so, we're not talking, I'm not gonna just be able to order.
Right.
You're gonna have to figure out, how you want it worded and the weight limit, the time shifts to.
So I don't know that we even need a motion here or anything. I think it's just John's going to order signs. We just need to give him some input
Yes.
in terms of where they need to be and what they need to say.
Yes.
And Nick, I'm going to assume you know somewhat what they need to say to make sure that we're covered. And then let's figure out where they need to be to make sure that it covers every place that you think they're going to be entering town. So, okay. So the DLZ invoice. I have it here if anybody wants to see it. It's 4 different items, and then the total is $5,500.
I'll make a motion to approve the DLZ CCMG 2025-31 invoice number 4 of 4 for $5,500.
Second the motion.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, I didn't hear you, so I'm not sure. Okay, I do want to write in there real quickly, DLZ will be in town tomorrow. We've been working over on Griffith Street, along with Reith and Riley, and hopefully we have some kind of answer from Reith and Riley tomorrow what their plan is. It was supposed to have been last week, so we should have been able to fully report tonight, and it got postponed. Okay, John, you're on. Purchase of an aviation-related mower.
A year ago, they was entertaining the motion to replace the batwing mower. It takes Kenny 3 days to mow the runway and the air mat. So what I was looking at was the mowers that Brent supplied to the solar farm. He had brought one of those out to the park for a demo. Now it takes 2 of us on the John Deere mowers. It takes us half a day just to mow the park. And when Brent brought this one particular mower out, 3 of us got on it and tried it out for a few minutes. But then Jeff got back on it and was able to mow this park within 2 hours. So it's, the man hours that I'm losing, I would be able to gain back. And I have not talked to the aviation board. I don't even know that, they're going to entertain this or not, Their thoughts was just to replace the batwing mower that Kenny pulls behind the John Deere tractor that's operated off of PTO. We've done some repairs to it this year, but I don't know what their thoughts will be. I will go to their meeting here this coming Thursday. So.
Do you have an approximate cost?
They're probably about $30,000 a piece.
And you're talking about 1?
2, and trading two of the John Deere mowers in on it as well. But again, I don't know what their thoughts are.
So we really need you to go to
Yes.
aviation, and then
Yes.
we'll really deal with this next month.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Would this be going through Sourcewell?
Yes.
That'll also give you time to become a member. Yeah. So we'll do it, so we'll just make sure that we put that on next month's agenda. Okay, update on park board members. We had a resignation, Jeff, Carver. I got my two Jeffs mixed up there for a minute. Jeff Carver has resigned and has, we want to thank you for your time of service. Felicity Gordon, who is the young lady that has the animal grooming business over here, has 2 young children. She has agreed to join them on the park board, so she would take Jeff's place, and I will send you the date to add to it. I think Jeff would go off in 2026.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I was thinking, and I should have had that up. But so then she would rotate off at the end of 26, since she's taking his place. Okay, all right, Baker Tilly invoice.
Make a motion to approve the Baker Tilly invoice in the amount of $6,342.50.
I second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Quickly, just update on planning. It is now in Erin's hands. Sunny and I met with her on the last time. Almost really everything that has happened in there was just her going over what the current plans were and saying, how does this compare to Galveston? And us looking at things like, we happen to know that one situation in their covenant/deeds, did we put that into our zoning itself? And we honestly told her we were joining them and didn't want to create a lot of extra work for them. Almost everything as it was existed for us anyway. There are a couple of little zoning changes. It's kind of where the animal ordinance that we still need to work on, but that becomes more important at the point that we adopt, that we actually approve this zoning. Erin will come and talk to us, prior to that once she has everything put together. But at this point, everything is in Erin Shaver's hands. And Erin is A-R-I-N. That's just so odd.
I get her emails.
Okay, anything else from the council?
Yeah, did you get the email on the Smith towing contract that was sent to you?
When did you send it?
Several weeks ago.
I don't believe I've got anyone.
I don't think I got anything, Mike.
Okay.
Hang on,
What
let me check. I talked to Lindsay a lot.
Also, with that, they passed a state bill, 1039, requiring all towing companies that tow for any municipality, law enforcement, must be transparent with their billing and their contractual. So you have to have that with any law enforcement. It's either a policy or a contract, so you gotta have it in. So Nick has a copy of everything. I thought I'd give it to him and email everything. I think Ryan, my son Ryan, emailed it all.
Do you know what email address I'd be looking for it from?
It'd be coming from my personal account.
I'm wondering. And
So I'll send
to my
it.
town? Yeah,
Yep,
please,
yep.
because I don't remember seeing it. And
If
just
anything,
as
I'll send
I just tried to find it, I don't see anything, but,
No problem. I'll get it to you.
okay,
Or Ryan will get it to you.
okay, thank you. Tell me what your personal email is, just so I know.
Michael Dice at outlook.com.
Okay. Mike or Michael?
Michael.
You might check your trash.
I will, and I'll well, so Michael, how is that? Oh no, because since it says Outlook, it's different, even though ours is Outlook for here in town, it's the town of Galveston.
Yeah.
That's the difference. Okay.
Question real quick, my clarity. We haven't used Mike, so we're not going to use Mike until that contract gets passed, right?
Correct me if I'm wrong, Brad, the contract will meet the conflict of interest requirements.
That's correct.
Yeah, so.
And I know I don't have a copy yet, anybody, so, I can reach out to Linda Ruby as well.
Coming up with your name in
I'll
any
get it
way,
right
shape,
now.
or form is your town email.
I'm not sure if you may send it to town.
Anyway, I'll
Okay.
handle it.
All right,
I'll just handle it there.
okay, all right,
So that way.
okay,
And
thank
you
you.
have to have that policy. It can be a contract or a policy.
Okay,
That's for the House Bill 10.
okay, all right, but no, I don't think I got it, but I'll look at my spam later. Although spam is a different beast on this email. Okay, anything else?
I have, on the electronics drop-off day, we had about 4 pickup loads, 2 of those being flat screen TVs, and the rest household appliances, computers. So I want to thank Todd and Sonny for helping out with that as well. But we had a pretty good turnout,
Yeah.
much better than last year.
Yeah, it was. It's a good thing.
I think it's well received by the town. So, okay. Anything else? All right. Oh, yeah, I forgot. Any questions from the audience? I need that outage plan. All right.
I make a motion to adjourn.
I'll say motion.